Hey guys! Today we're going to do a quick tutorial on how to fill out a buyer brokerage agreement. We're actually going to walk you through from start to finish, logging into Command, accessing your opportunity, loading into the documents, and then walking you through the blanks of a buyer brokerage agreement. So first, open Chrome because Command works best in the Chrome browser. And you are going to type in the address, which is agent.kw.com. So we're going to click on agent.kw.com. And it will take you to this screen, which is your login screen. This is the same login information as your mykw.kw.com login information that you got when you onboarded. If you have any questions about what that might be, you are welcome to reach out to Agent Services, and they will be glad to give you your login information and help you either remember your password or reset your password. So we're just going to sign in. And it will bring you into your dashboard, and we're going to click on opportunities. And I've already created a test opportunity, but if you have any questions about how to do that, we actually do have a tutorial video on that as well. So currently it shows that I'm part of a team, so I want to make sure I click on my opportunities. If you are a solo agent, the dashboard will be your dashboard specific. If you're a team, you will see your names across the top. So I'm just going to click on one of my actives. Let's see. We're going to go into Mr. Gary Keller. It's going to be a buyer for us. So this is what your buyer looks like. You'll go into your dashboard and you'll have your details, buyer profile, documents, offers, commission, notes, and timeline. These are just, you click from left to right, work your way across as the opportunity progresses. So for now, we're going to go into documents, and we're going to go to transaction. This will knock us over into our Docusign room. If you haven't already done this before in the opportunity, it will actually say start a transaction, and it will create the room within Docusign for you. It'll dump you into this documents tab. I do recommend that documents be filled out in this area of Docusign rather than in an envelope getting ready to be sent for signature, because once that document is signed, it is not editable, and any changes that are needed, you would have to recreate the entire document. If you create the document first within the room docs, then you can go back and edit that original document and resend for signature with any changes that are needed. This is especially important with a purchase and sale or a listing agreement where the seller has decided they want to change the list price they're agreeing to list for, or any terms that they are wanting to revise. So to start off, we're in our Documents tab within the room. We're going to click Add Documents. We're going to go to Docusign Forms. Select the library you want, the GAR, Georgia Association of Realtors forms. We're going to search for a buyer broker, which is the F110. You can search by the number if you happen to know it. We're going to click Add. And it has popped up in our room. Click on it and it will open it up, and you can now edit it. So in section 1, this is the parties that are involved in the brokerage agreement. You have your client that will pull directly from Command. If you have more than one, buyer 1 will be here, buyer 2 will be here. Broker is Keller Williams Realty North Atlanta. The date the contract the brokerage agreement begins is the date it is being signed. So September 12th, 2020. And we're going to do September, let's see if I can count. Here we go, September 12th, 2020. I'm going to do a 6-month term. You can do however long you've agreed to with the buyer. If you've agreed to help them for 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, a year. You do need to put an ending date though, otherwise it will default to assuming a year. But you do need to put an expiration date on the buyer broker agreement. I'm going to put 6 months, and I'm going to put it at the end of 6 months, like the end of the 6th month rather than in the middle. So we're going to go through February 28th, 2021. Now the next one is, what are you to the broker? You are not an employee of the broker. all Keller Williams North Atlanta agents are independent contractors. That was that independent contractor agreement you signed when you came on board. So you would just click independent contractor. The fourth section is agency and brokerage. This is what is not offered by the broker, or what is prohibited as being offered by the broker. This is not applicable for Keller Williams North Atlanta. We allow all brokerage types. However, with the dual agency, you do need to alert both the broker, and all parties have to be aware that you are representing both sides as clients. So that is, be very careful with it. It is not prohibited, but it is something to be aware of and to be watched out for. So for that section, I'm not actually going to click anything. Next is the commission section. This is where you would have the buyer acknowledge that you are going to be receiving a commission from the listing agent or from the seller, should it be a FSBO, for any contracts negotiated on the buyer's behalf. I'm going to click the percentage, as most commissions that are shared are written in the percentage format. Typically it is 3%. However, it does vary contract to contract based on what the listing agent has negotiated with the seller and what they have agreed to share with the co-op agent. Or in the case of a FSBO, or a for sale by owner, it is whatever you as the buyer's agent have negotiated directly with the seller to pay for your commission, whatever percentage that might be. Now, in section B of the commission area, you have the ability to say, in the event the seller does not pay the broker the full amount of the commission, being the 3% listed in section A, you have the ability to say the buyer is or is not responsible for the difference. In this situation, say that for whatever reason the buyer's agent's commission is 2%. You have written 3% in the buyer broker agreement. You are saying, if you click shall, you're saying the buyer is responsible for that additional 1% of commission. Now, our managing broker does recommend that we click shall not pay the buyer broker the difference, as that the commission is negotiated with the seller, not the buyer. So for our purposes, we're going to go ahead and make sure that we follow our managing broker's suggestion and leave this as shall not pay the broker the difference. Separate lease commission is if you're out showing houses to a buyer and they say suddenly, you know what, I'd rather just lease. Can you help me find a lease? You would go ahead and you would have this already filled in. I'm going to put nothing in it and put an NA on both of these, simply because for the purposes of this, I'm focusing on this as a buyer brokerage agreement, not a tenant brokerage. What I would recommend is, should they decide to look for leases rather than sales, to do a tenant brokerage agreement in addition to the buyer brokerage agreement. That way it has more information in that regarding actual leases. It is lease specific rather than house specific. Section 7 is the protected period. I highly recommend making sure you cover yourself here. Do not leave this blank. You should never leave anything blank anyway. But this protected period protects you from a buyer who finds a house they like, sees it, thinks, you know what, I bet if the seller didn't have to pay my agent's commission, they might lower the price of the house. So, you know what, I'm going to tell my broker I don't want to work with them anymore. I'm good. I'm not actually going to find a house anymore. We're going to terminate the agreement. Then I'm going to approach the seller directly and offer to buy the house. You've shown them the house. If you fill in this protected period, it means for a certain amount of days after you terminate the brokerage agreement or the brokerage agreement expires, if they buy a house or put an offer in on a house that you showed them, you are entitled to the commission. So this is to protect you and your commission. It can be 30 days, it can be 60 days, it can be 90 days, it can be 120 days, it can be a year. It's totally what you will agree to and what you would like to put in there. I would like to put in 90 days. It protects me for 3 months. from the date that either the brokerage agreement expires or the brokerage agreement is terminated. Now that is all that is needed to fill in on page 1. Page 2 through, let's see here, through 6 is a lot of further explanations of what is on page 1. It is a good idea to go ahead and read through this with your buyers. It's a good idea to read through it ahead of time before you talk to your buyers so you can walk them through it. It's just a lot of legalese, but it is the ins and outs of what the brokerage agreement entitles them to and what it entitles you to as their agent. If we are going to be providing any disclosure brochures, this would be where we attach which ones we are going to give them. In this situation, I'm actually not going to fill any out. It is a good idea sometimes just to go ahead and give them the lead-based paint, what to consider when buying a home, what to consider when buying a home with an HOA. Depending on what they're looking at, you can fill in the appropriate disclosures. If you know you're going to be looking in an older neighborhood, I would highly recommend going ahead and giving them that lead-based paint pamphlet, because that will come into play in any home built before 1978 and it will be required. Special stipulations on a buyer brokerage agreement. They're not many that you would want to put in here, but it's any special situation where a buyer agrees to work with you only to show them a specific property. You would put that special stipulation here. You know, all parties agree that buyer only wants so-and-so agent to show them the property at 123 Main Street, Alpharetta, Georgia 3005, and no other properties will be eligible for commission, or the wording you would need to run by the broker or an attorney. But for now, that's pretty much the type of special stipulation you would put in. If they're only working with you for a certain house, if there's going to be a reload fee, you might want to disclose that here. If there is any odd thing that is not covered on the first page of the buyer brokerage agreement, or if you want to charge a retainer fee, I would recommend talking to Melba first before you do that, or a transaction fee. You want to make sure you have the proper terminology and the proper wording before you put something like that into the buyer brokerage agreement, but this is where that would go. Be sure to click the additional stipulations are attached. If you have another page of stipulations, say you filled this up and you need another document with more stipulations, you need to make sure that additional stipulations is checked, because otherwise it will not be a part of the brokerage agreement. Now you get into the contact information. You want to make sure you have the buyer's name, any address they have for receiving notice, their phone number. This is, if it's not filled in, it means you cannot provide any type of notice to them in that format. So if you want to terminate the agreement and you mail them a letter, but this is not filled in, technically that is not proper notification, because that is not in the brokerage agreement. So you want to make sure you have all of that information filled in, and it is simply you type it in. And if you've filled it in their contact information when you've created their contact, it will actually auto-populate and pull that over. I'll do my example earlier of 123 Main Street. Alright, we're going to, this goes the same for if you give them the phone number, you can call them and give them a message. It's going to be his work. Here's his email. If you have more than one or more than two buyers, if you have, so let's say a family buying a home together, a vacation property together, and you've got 3 siblings that are buying the house, this would be where you would put an additional signatures page. You would have buyer 1, buyer 2, and on the additional signatures page, you'd have buyer 3. Now you would have to make sure on each additional contract document, you would always have to have that additional signatures page on everything, but that's what that additional signatures page is for. then you need to make sure that you do have your information filled in correctly. Brokerage agreement, broker name already fills in, your name fills in, this will fill in when we sign it. Licensee phone number. Oops. I'm going to put NA, don't receive by fax. It's my email. Let's see if I can remember it. You do need to fill in your license number. That is required. Our office code is KWNF 01. H36119 is our broker number. That's our broker license number. Broker phone number would be the main office number. Here's where you have our address. You do need to go ahead and fill in the additional. All right, so there you filled it in. You do not fill this in until it has been signed by the buyer. And that is it. You filled in all your information, so you would hit save and close. Now the other form you would need when you get the buyer brokerage agreement signed, and this I recommend going ahead and doing now so that you don't forget it later on. Go back to add a document, go to the KW181, and we're going to do the KWNA disclosure with multiple affiliates. This is the affiliated business disclosure, or the disclosure of marketing services. This is a required form that just discloses that we have a relationship, the broker has a relationship with our partners of Shelter Home Mortgage, 210 Home Warranty, and O'Kelly and Sorhan. We will be updating this to include Campbell and Brannan shortly. For now, this one is the most updated one we have. And we are going to just fill in our buyer name, the date, and we'll go ahead and fill in his printed name down here. And that is all we need to do on that. So we hit save and close. Now to send for signature, you just click on envelopes, click new. Broker agreement. We're going to pull the forms not from a template but from the room docs, and you just select which ones you want to do. We're going to add both of those in. We're going to add a recipient. We're going to do pre-tagged roles. This will automatically put a signature place and assign the right person to that signature place. It'll save you some time in the long run of having to, drag and drop signature boxes to places. So we're going to go with, that is our buyer. Buyer's agent is me, so we're going to do that. And we're going to do authorized signer for the KW affiliate disclosure. We're going to do back to the buyer, because that is the buyer that needs to sign that. I'm going to add selected. And for those purposes, this is not actually a real email address, so I'm going to put it in as mine. Just so we don't have any bounced emails here. And this would be where you would, this is going to be the email subject that the buyer sees. So you the buyer brokerage agreement. And this would be any email, a message that you want to send them. Hi, it's been great meeting with you. I look forward to working with you and helping you find the perfect home. Anything to, any blurb you want to put in there, just letting them know what they're about to sign. Click next. And you'll see that everything we filled in previously has now been pulled over. There is one glitch that we've noticed, and we're not quite sure what's going on with it, that that your name is not actually populating down here on the GAR forms like it used to. This does need to be filled in, so I'm just going to make sure that I'm selected over here. I'm going to put my name there, and that way when I go in to sign this, it will auto-populate my name there. Just scroll through, make sure that you're not missing any signatures any places. It should have auto-populated, and it did. This is where he needs to sign. This is where I need to sign and date. I would recommend switching over to the buyer on this and letting them fill this in so that as soon as they sign it, because assuming you're going to sign immediately, they will sign after you. This will acknowledge that they received a copy of it. Come over here. It has got the buyer signature here and the date they signed, and you are good to go. If you want to see what it's going to look like when it comes through on their end, hit recipient preview. And this is what they're going to see. They're going to see, please review the documents below. They're going to hit the start button. It'll take them to their first signature. You'll notice that this does not fill in because that is our signature, not the buyer's signature. It will auto-populate when they sign it. And there we go. Now this will actually, I'm going to take you back one page because I want to change something. I would actually not, I want to change that if I can. I'm going to take that off. And I want to, this way he will only get one email. So I'm going to go back over here. And we're just going to do this authorized signer. We're going to take that off. And it says they have fields, but I've already deleted them, so that is perfectly okay. So now we're going to go back in and just review and make sure that all the signature places are still in place. There is my full name that needs to be filled in. And there is his signature, my signature, the date for them, and his signature down here. And we are good to go. So we're going to hit send. And you'll see that this says needs my signature. You as the agent can go right on in and hit sign. Click continue, start, hit that. I'm adopting and signing. We are good to go. And that is all I need to sign, so I'm going to hit finish. And then to show you what it looks like when we fill in, when they receive the email, it will look like this. So this is what your buyer will see when they receive the document. Hit start. They sign again. They've signed everywhere they need to. You hit finish. Hit continue. And you are done. So we can click out of that. Click back over to our envelopes. If we refresh the screen, you will now see that it says completed. And if you go over here to documents, you'll now have two forms in here that say signed. These are your signed documents. That you have a signed buyer brokerage agreement, you have your signed affiliated business disclosure. Now, I'll take you one step further in the video. We're going to go back to command, and I'm going to show you how to import them into command so that you can go ahead and put them into command so compliance can review them when you're ready to submit once you have a contract. The easiest way to do it is to hit attach multiple files, click Docusign. It will bring up these little drop down menus. You just click and you look for the one that says signed. And you look for the other one that says signed. And you hit attach. And your documents are in command, and you are ready to show some houses. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to any staff member. We are more than happy to help. And good luck with your buyers.